Well, thank you for being here on this beautiful spring day, Katie. I'm so excited to have you here at the KGB Texas offices.
Absolutely, I'm thrilled to be here.
So now that we're coming out of COVID, and I know COVID had a tremendous impact on homelessness in San Antonio, talk to me a little bit about what that looks like now coming out of COVID and just how it did impact our homeless population in general.
Absolutely. Well, we've come such a long way because thinking back to March of 2020, it was just emergency mode. So starting out, it was meetings every single day with our key partners on what have we learned, what are we doing to protect people. We worked with the city and county to open hotels and make sure we could kind of decongest our shelters and keep everybody safe. But what really came out of that was really strong relationships and coordination and partnerships. And so I think since 2020, the way we've all been able to work together has just been absolutely incredible. With that said, we're also facing unprecedented challenges at the same time. Even to this day, we have people on a wait list who are behind on rent or struggling to keep up with costs increasing. Gas, rent, all of it is just a challenge. So we're still dealing with the fallout of that, but I'm very confident that we have the partnerships in place that we can identify those gaps and work to address them.
You all received an unprecedented grant here recently to be able to expand upon your services and further serve our homeless population. Tell me a little bit about that grant and the impact that it's going to have on your service.
So this most recent funding we got was based on strong performance of San Antonio and Bexar County over the last 2 years. We got the highest award in a single year we've ever gotten through the Continuum of Care grant program, which is provided by HUD to regions throughout the United States. So we got about $1.2 million that'll be used for people fleeing domestic violence to get rental assistance and case management, and then also for permanent supportive housing, which out of all the work we're doing, all the federal funds we've received, this is where we still struggle the most, is having long-term housing options with services on site, with a sense of community on site. So this includes about $500,000 to help with that, but we estimate that we need about 1,000 units of permanent supportive housing to fully address everyone who's unsheltered in San Antonio.
The upcoming bond election too for San Antonio, there is affordable housing and then permanent supportive housing as well. Tell me, will that help to fill that gap? Is that another portion of the solution?
So that was a great opportunity. The mayor appointed us to co-chair that citizen committee because homelessness is a huge priority for the city. We're part of an initiative now called House America to try to house 1,500 people experiencing homelessness.
What are you, just out of curiosity too, what types of trends are you seeing in homelessness and I think areas of greatest vulnerability?
We're right now looking at and analyzing the results of our homeless point-in-time count. The last time we did this count was in 2020. We didn't conduct one last year because there was just too much risk involved with exposing volunteers and people on the street before we had vaccines and things like that in place. From what we're looking at right now, I think you can expect to see that those who are still on the street, their needs have only increased.
Okay.
A lot of the federal assistance was to help keep people housed or to rapidly get them back into housing if they lost their job. But those that are never going to be able to work because they're on long-term disability, have severe mental health like schizophrenia, intellectual or developmental disabilities, the needs are just so high that are out there. We even have people on the street who really need hospice care or who need medical respite and skilled nursing. So you may see that the numbers look flat or go down, but the need is just very great for who's still out there.
What do you think is the largest misunderstanding of our homeless population and the needs that we have?
I think the first question a lot of people have is, why are people allowed to camp? Why are there tents? But I think the more you understand the issue and the complexity of it, you start to see all of the challenges that someone might run into trying to get off of the street. To even get to that point, you have to have lost a lot of family ties, probably experienced trauma. A lot of people experiencing homelessness had adverse childhood experiences and things that become hardwiring, you know, those fight or flight responses, not trusting systems that they're going to be able to take care of you or look out for you. Right. So I think it's just, there's no silver bullet, there's no quick fix, but we are seeing results when we have the the supportive environment in the long term that people in that situation need. So I think you'll hear, people choose to be homeless. That may infrequently be the case, but a lot of times that has become the best option because of all the trauma and challenges they've experienced. That you walk up to them and offer help and they say no, but they're not going to trust someone after all they've been through without a lot of engagement.
Right.
So it's tough to hear because I know it's a challenge for businesses, for neighbors, but I think at the end of the day, we can solve it if we look at what works and we make the right investments.
And how do you feel like San Antonio is doing as far as a community in addressing homelessness and making those necessary investments?
So one of our jobs at Sarah is to keep looking at best practices and examples from other communities, but I can tell you that people fly from all over the world to see what we're doing in San Antonio. Because we have such a great system and strong coordination and partnerships, it helps us see what are we still missing. And so that's the point we're at now. We're looking at increasing our street outreach presence so we can build those relationships, having options for medical respite for those more intense health needs, and then this long-term supportive housing. So I would say we're doing an excellent job, and even though you still see encampments and people who are unsheltered, we haven't seen that explosion that other communities have.
Right.
We need to stay ahead of it though.
And I think the bond initiative and this being an important part of that bond initiative and people,
Yes.
making sure that they support this and vote yes for that bond is definitely a step in the right direction.
Yeah, and I think the housing bond is really well-rounded and that it addresses home ownership, permanent supportive housing. It also has, part of it is for preserving housing. So for families that have been in San Antonio for generations but can't afford the repairs they need, then they're starting to have code compliance issues. It's at risk of demolition. So it's also going to preserve the affordable housing we have in San Antonio and
Right.
really take care of our neighbors and people who have been here for a very long time.
Right. It's such an important issue, and we are so very pleased to be able to support the efforts that your organization, the city, the county, everyone working together to fill those gaps and to continue to make San Antonio a model city for addressing our homeless population and just continuing to move our community forward. So thank you for all that you do, all that the organization does, and for joining us here today on The Point.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks.